Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to my stream and welcome to another chapter working on that guy right there. That is our 1/16 scale General Lee model kit by MPC. We're going to run the intro. Yep. And we'll get started. Okay guys, we're back and we're continuing on the build, and I did a little bit of stuff off camera, but not really too much. The biggest thing I did that is a big change, it's not a big change, it's a subtle change, something that I'm happy I was able to do it, and I'll show you guys. On our engine, on our 440 Magnum, I was able to put in the fuel lines. Look at them fuel lines we got going in there. Yes. And I also got our little coil, put on there in the spot it's supposed to be, thank you very much. Yes, so I got the fuel line going down, and I even got it go running down to the fuel pump. The line out, well, yeah, we'll have to deal with that later. But yeah, we got fuel lines on there. We got fuel lines going to our carburetors. All three of them, that's right. Yes, okay, got that done. Of course, we got the oil filter put on our kit block, that's put in there, so that's nice, and yeah, that's that. So we're switching gears today, guys. We're working on something a little bit different. Interior stuff. I want to get some interior done. I've got some felt sheets that I picked up on Amazon, and these are sticky on one side. You peel that off and it's nice and sticky, and we're going to have felt carpet in this, and we get some nice texture going on there. And I got the white because we can paint it. I also got some black, but that would be more for black interiors, obviously. But this is not going to be a black interior because it's the General Lee, and yeah. So just as a test, I put one half down like this on here. The seam is going to be hidden underneath our center console, so I'm not really worried about that. And so yeah, let's I want to do the other side now and get that done and get our interior kind of working on this. I was looking at the seats and deciding how am I going to have the seats mounted, because we have these big mounts on the bottom of them to raise them up. But that would be okay because if they were sitting down into those channels, into those big sections that were dipped down, right? But now if I just put them on there, you can see if we compare the height to our rear seat, they sit a little too tall now. So I think I'm gonna trim off the mount here, and we'll have it like that. So let me just let's grab some bigger nippers here. I'm just gonna nip this off right here, right at the base, just like that. That's some thick plastic on there. Yeah. So let's get rid of these. That's funny. That hit my ceiling and came back down right here. I only have one of these assembled, so yeah. So I'll just trim this or sand this down so that it's kind of smooth and level a little bit. Still got some extra material I gotta get rid of here. Now that it's a little more reasonable, I'll use my regular nippers to get this down level here. That's a little better. Let's file that down. Technically I only need it smooth enough for a flat mount. It's really all I need, and they're giving me lots of material on each side to do that with, so that's nice. I'll just get rid of some excess burrs on here now. Now I realize these are not 1970 Dodge Charger seats. These are just what they decided to give you in your NASCAR General Lee. But it's fine. It's going to be a nice leather vinyl look to it. So yeah. And now with that, that puts the seat at a more reasonable height. It's about the same now. That's good. And they're going to go roughly like this, something in like that, around there anyway. Yeah. And of course our center console is going to go on here. I have that sitting over here somewhere. Here's our center console, primered up. She's going to go down roughly just like that. I want to match the shifter right where our old one was, so she's going to be right around there. She's going to have a little bit of a gap in between the seat and the console. That's fine. And she'll sit down like that, and we'll have a center console in our General Lee. And then of course we'll have our seat here like this, and that's roughly how we're going to have it. Something like that, right? So yeah, it's going to be a reasonable facsimile. It'll look pretty good, I think, when it's all done. I know there are guys out there who do a much better job at this. This is actually the very first time I've laid down any kind of a carpet in the interior of a car. Which is why I was hesitant to try and do it as one piece. I figured I'd get some wrinkles in around this transmission hump. I figured that's probably what would happen. And so I just I figured the seam would be hidden anyway under the console, and so I just chose to do one half and then one half. So I've got the other side here like this that I can do, and I think I'm going to do, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I did this side wider to try and take up this so that when this kind of went up higher it would be fine. As you can see, this is now no longer straight. That's not really a straight. Well, actually the camera makes it look straight, but if I were to take that along here, it's not straight, right? So yeah. So what I'll do is we got pretty close. I want to do that, but I need that kind of width to it. So let's run this down here. So there. I think right about there, give us a little extra, and let's cut. Of course my scissors are not the best, but that's going to be good enough. I'll go all the way so that I end up with a fairly rectangular piece when I'm all done. Come on. Gotta find that sweet spot. This is that way with scissors, you gotta find that sweet spot before they really cut. There we go. Okay, so there's lots of spares. I got lots of spare stuff. Plenty to go, and I got 20 sheets in a package. So I've got a lot to last me a long time. So I want to have this wider section right there, which means our carpet's going to go here. And I could, if I really wanted to try and tuck it underneath the seat, I could. I could try. Yeah, there we go. So I could get away with doing that, and that almost matches actually, like that. I can trim away some of this excess here so that it's a little more reasonable to work with. Let's just trim that. Let's pull this out. Okay. Like I said, this is the very, very first time I've ever attempted this. So making mistakes and everything is really par for the course. And of course, we've got to have the little cutout for our roll cage. Now this one I didn't put in as deep on this side, so I don't have to worry about that. But this side I'm going to have to account for the roll cage. And the other thing I've found out on this one, as it comes up over the hump, it actually separated away from the adhesive and the carpet. It actually pulled away, and I wound up having to use CA glue to keep it down. Not that that matters, because again, it's going to be underneath the center console. But that being said, maybe it would have been better to actually put a strip right over top here and glue it down on the edges, and then put a strip up against it, so that I'd have a strip going down and then a strip here. That might have been a better way to do it, and then I could just trim it around here. That might have been better. I have to get rid of these two little knobs here. I get rid of those. There was two on this side too, right about here. I had to get rid of those. Those I think were going to be for maybe brake lines or maybe the fuel lines. I'm not sure. I kind of saw them in the instructions. So, I think what I want to do is actually use the CA glue and glue this in place, just like this. I get it in there and glue it down first before we go anywhere with it. Which means getting the adhesive off of here, we're getting the paper out, and I'm going to put the CA glue down in here first, which means this gets put aside, and let's get some CA. I'm not going to need my scissors anymore, because from now on cutting is going to be done with a knife. So put some CA glue along here, and I'm actually going to use my accelerator too while we're at it. So let's put some CA glue along here. Doesn't matter if it dripped there. That's not where I wanted it, but whatever. Doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is that I get it all the way along this edge, because that's what's going to be important. I don't need any on the seat. Thank you very much. This is where it wants to lift, is right at the edge. So we got to make sure it's all going to line up, and it's going to stay. I want it to stay. Fortunately, my CA glue takes a few minutes to dry. Well, maybe not a few minutes, but it takes time anyway. It's not instant anymore. Okay, let's get our piece lined up on there. We got to tuck it under the seat. We want to have it around that level. Now, because it's sticky, it's going to want to stick right away, but I'm actually going to try and preemptively fold this up here to try and get it to tuck under the seat and get where I need it, because it's tough. It's tough. Let's see if I get the front lined up. Maybe. Get tweezers in there, maybe. Maybe I can pull it. I'm willing to pull up. Almost. I might have to do this a couple of times. We got a good seam going on there. And then here, that's good. But here's not so much. Here's not really doing its job. I wish I could pull it. Let's grab, do I have my stronger tweezers out here? I could pull this up. Get it to, I don't think it's just not gonna do it for me. But with that done, let's give her a spray. And we'll press down on there. I think we're doing okay. I think I'm going to have to add a little bit more to this little spot. See if I can get in there with some CA. At the seat where you guys don't really see, but in there, right? She's not exactly staying down. I keep touching the front of the seat with my glue. Like, come on, man. The problem with my applicator is I get a lot on there and then it just drips. Okay, hold down, spray. Did that do the trick? I think I got it. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so with that done, we've got it glued along here, and I think that's going to be glued good enough. It's still got a little bit sticking up, but that's okay if that sticks up. What we really need to do is get this unstuck from the floor. So that I can get in on that hump. Because that hump is what really changes everything. But we got it. We got a bit of a gap, but that's okay. It's actually a spot on this one that's still sticking up, but that doesn't matter. And I got a little bit of a gap up here, but again, doesn't really matter. And you see, I pulled this back and the adhesive stuck down to the plastic, but the carpet came up. So I'm going to add a little bit of CA glue up here. Just kind of pull that if I can. If I can convince it to go nice and tight up in there and stay, then I think we're golden. And it really won't matter even if I put some CA glue on the very top of it here. It does kind of absorb into it a little bit. Let's see if I can get a little bit more in here, just to try and convince that section to sit down. You can see how it's gotten wet with the glue, and it's like, okay, so how do I keep it glued down now without actually gluing whatever I'm using to hold it down? That seemed to work pretty good. I'm going to pull this down and seem to work. All right. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to pull this side up. I think I'm done with my CA glue. I might be done with it. I think once this is all painted beige, it's going to be even less noticeable, the fact that I've got a seam there. But I need to pull this little corner up and reveal where our little spot for our roll bar goes, and cut a little notch out there, right here. Right about here. This is a brand new X-Acto knife blade that I chose specifically to cut this, because this stuff is a little bit of a bear to cut cleanly. There we go. So now I'll be able to mount the roll bar there. Now as far as this goes, I'm just going to go along the edge here, bit of an angle, kind of hold it like that, kind of come along this. Cutting in a downward motion so that it wants to stick rather than pull up. That's that. I mean, I could technically like take a strip and put it this way along the seat bottom, right, and have the carpet actually come up and take up that gap. I don't think that's really necessary. I don't think I need to go to those kind of lengths. I could put a little strip on here just to cut even this out, but again, I don't think it's really necessary. I could take a piece and just tuck it underneath there, or at least, or try to tuck it underneath. Now we're getting pretty close in here. Our tolerance is not really gonna allow me, I don't think, to get another piece shoved in there. But on this side, I think I could. Let me see, let me try. I want to try, guys. I want to try. If I try and bend that up, now that this is, see, I've removed the stickiness, or I've removed the paper so it's sticky. It even sticks to my tweezers. So you got that. It's almost. We got to go that much further. Almost. There we go. Did we get there? Hey, we got there. Kind of tuck that in there like that. There we go. Get in there and press her down. Of course, I've got my little spot where I need to notch that. There we go. So maybe I do need my CA glue because I got to get that piece down now, because that is going to be noticeable sticking up in there. Let's get that CA glue again. And that. Okay. Push that down. Get to the point where it kind of wants to stay on its own. And then I'll hit it with the accelerator. That's the trick, is once it kind of wants to stay, then I can hit it with the accelerator. But until that happens, it won't. Even with the accelerator, it just won't stay. There we go. Got a decent, workable carpet. Yes. Workable carpet? Does that even make sense? Yeah, my carpet's working, guys. It works great. Okay. So, I need to trim, obviously I need to trim the front of it here. So, and of course it still wants to lift at the front at this tip. Even with all that, what I was doing, it still wanted to lift. It still wants to lift. So I'm going to try and hold it here and do that downward motion again. Downward cut. If I can actually see. It actually would be a little bit wiser if I actually held it with tweezers instead of my fingers, so that I don't cut my fingers. And see how it's pulled away from the adhesive, and the CA glue really did nothing to it there. It's just a lot easier to hold it with my fingers. Sorry guys. It's a little bit tricky when you're trying to cut it to get it actually right on the edge. There we go. I've got some stickiness all over my fingers from the tape, and we still have this edge wanting to stand up, which makes me want to just dump a bunch of glue on it. Admittedly, that's what it makes me want to do. Especially for other areas where that has worked. Just kind of soak it in the CA glue and then call it a day. As it kind of hardens, it becomes a bit of a rock. It actually feels like, yeah, it's already dried, so it had some of the accelerator under there, and it cured it before I pressed it down. So let's try this again. Back, lay it down. There, I think that did the job. That did the trick. Okay, so there's our carpet laid down. Now with the carpet down, I can put in the center console. Like I said before, center console is going to go in right about there. I've got my little rear piece of carpet here. Does not look very happy. Of course, that's a hard little rock now, and I just pulled it up to get rid of that little rock, and the whole thing came up. Shows you just how well my CA glue is holding it. not very well at all. I'm going to say good enough. I'm going to call that good enough. Our center console, I want to go right about there. And that should be fine. So I'm going to put a bunch of CA glue all the way around this edge here. I suppose another possibility would be to use maybe some 5-minute epoxy. That might be an option, but of course if you do that, you're going to wind up having to you're going to have to hold it for a lot longer, you know, like the 5 minutes for the epoxy to dry. Oh yeah, that's right, put your finger right in the glue. Brilliant. Trying to put enough on that it's going to stick, because I'm not 100% exactly where it all kind of meets on the carpet and where it's going to hold. So I'm trying to just put it everywhere that I think I'm going to have contact, and then put her in right about there and just let her sit there. And hopefully in a few minutes she'll be dry enough that I could actually pick the model up by the center console. That's the theory, and that's the hope. Yes. Wow. Sticks to other things really good. So there we have it. There's our rear seat, our carpet is in. And yeah, okay, so that doesn't look that great, but you think about when you've got this thing in there with the dashboard sitting somewhere around like this, right? I'm not sure how far up the dashboard's going to be, but you know, you're going to have your seat here, and so that tells me the dashboard's maybe going to be around here. Something like that. And well, look where that seam is compared to the dashboard. I mean, that tells me it's going to be totally hidden. Let's grab the body for a sec. The body will give me a better idea of whereabouts it's going to be. If I just take this, tuck it in there real quick. Dashboard is going to sit probably around there. Which also tells me I need to do something about the curvature on the back part of my dash. I can edit the 3D file and actually make this rounded here at the back to give my dash more depth to match the curve here. You know, more like the kit dash. The kit dash has quite a bit of curve compared to what I've got going on, right? So there's that. But at the same time, it's not really any deeper, which tells me wherever this was supposed to go, you know, something like this, that's about the same. roughly like that. And if it's something like that, I can't see that seam through the windshield, so I'm happy with that. And even looking down through here, yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good, guys. You like my trunk lid? Doink doink. Got the trunk cut out. I saw that last time. I don't need to show you again. You already saw that. Okay, do you think it's been long enough that I can move this thing? Hey, look at that. She's holding. I could actually pick it up if I wanted to. Yay. All right. So what I do need to do now, I need to primer all this, but I don't want to primer it black because we're doing beige, right? So let's grab, I'm just going to leave this. I don't really want to touch this. I want this to be glued nice and solid in case there's any glue that just hasn't dried underneath there because of lack of air and stuff like that. So we're just going to leave that, okay? We're just going to leave it the way it is, and we'll set that aside. Let's get the other seat assembled. That's our two pieces here. 1 and 2. And then we're left with this really ugly looking sprue with what appears to be, these things look like the inserts for the grill, but we've got a little Dodge, it just says the word Dodge there, but I don't know what that's for actually. Let me take a look at the grill, because we have chrome things that are looking exactly the same, look like the exact same thing. And they show them here, part number 381 times 2, and that's the chrome ones. So I'm not sure what those are then. I mean, it is very possible they're for another kit, they're for some other version of this car, because I'm not seeing them anywhere in any other spot in the instructions, anywhere at all. Nowhere in the frame. Of course, the frame is step number 1, and that's it, right? So I have a feeling, since they actually look like the same shape, I actually don't have those things on my sprue. Maybe these are them. But that should say Charger, not Dodge. And that's not part 381. What the heck, guys? Where's part number 381? Our chrome sprue doesn't even go up to number 300. What the heck? Part number 381. You're seeing that, right? 381 times 2. Well, this is part 154. So where's 381? Oh. I totally forgot all about that sprue. There they are there. There they are there. Of course, they got no detail on them. They're just plain lines. And of course, they're not gonna remain. They will not remain chrome. So, yeah, found them. And they actually look bigger. They're actually considerably bigger than these. These don't even fit. These would be way. Okay, hopefully it's still recording and it's actually working, because I got about 39 minutes into my video and it stopped recording, and I don't know why. And it wasn't until like maybe like 50 minutes into it that I noticed my one camera had gone black, and that's when I was like, oh, what the heck is going on? So I need to kind of just catch you guys up on what I did for like a full 20-25 minutes, and before I realized what was going on. Let me change the camera and I'll show you. Okay, so we did a fuel line on our carburetor on our kit engine. Okay, I did that, and I ran a little hose going from my oil filter little nub down to the bottom of the oil pan. Yeah, that's good enough for me. We're gonna do our spark plugs next time. We're gonna do those next time. Okay, but that's our fuel lines done. In between there, we got a little T that's a part number 100 that goes in there. Okay, and then we got the rubber hose that comes in the kit. We got 2 sizes of hose, plus we've got the yellow wire for our spark plugs. This we're going to deal with next time. We're going to do our spark plugs next time, guys. Okay, that's what's going to be next. Okay, the other thing I did is I put our exhaust headers on our resin engine. As you can see, I decided to go with like a nice rusty steel look with some blue heat staining going on. That's the driver's side there, and there we have our passenger side. I think that looks pretty good as far as a real used look to it. Yeah, and of course we got our fuel lines done on that car, on those carbs too. Fuel lines going in there. Yeah, all the way down to the fuel pump. Yeah, so that's that. So that's basically what I did. That was 25 minutes of work. That was 25 minutes of work doing that, getting those things put together. So, yeah, so off camera, I'm going to primer the interior on this guy. I'm going to get all in a nice solid light gray color primer on there, all ready for some beige, okay? And so again, guys, that's where we're going to leave it. I want to thank you for supporting me. Thank you for the drudgery of going through this with me. I really appreciate it, guys. I'd really love to hear from you. I'd love to read your comments, guys. So leave a comment down below if you feel like it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the like button too. Help my channel out, please. That would be really wonderful. Thanks again, guys. See you all in the next one.